We're going to start off on our topic of unknown value. And of course, I left this as a bit of a mystery, but we can fill it out in terms of consumers, buyers, and sellers looking at agents and finding their unknown values. There might be some things there that maybe you think you've already got handled, or the internet is telling you everything on how to do it, but we'll circle back to this, but ask questions to your agent about what they're providing and what they can do beyond maybe your initial expectations. Darren?
Right. So, in my thought about having this conversation, I thought the best way to approach it might be a little bit of the evolution, even in my short 20 years as an agent.
Right.
When I got into the business, I'm not that old. So listings were on the internet. It was all out there electronically, but it was not readily available to the consumer, certainly on the level. This was pre-Zillow days. And even as an agent, there were local MLSs. So if you wanted to cover multiple areas, you had to become members of other MLSs and put your listings in multiple areas and pay to post them. And so the information was a value that realtors brought at that time. And having the information about new listings and the dialogue and the communication with other agents were an absolute requirement to be a successful realtor. And that's what you deliver. That's the beginning of your connection with the client, often as far as bringing them their options.
Right.
Come all the way forward to today, it's not uncommon at all for clients to come to us with a listing already. It's actually more common than not. Because they're hyper-focused on their own needs, and they could be up all night long, looking for listings, and they're going to really hone in on the nuances of what they're looking for. So the value proposition has changed from a realtor perspective, but realtors are inventive, innovative people, and in figuring out how to.
I'm sorry, Darren. Most are.
Okay. And collectively as a group, the products we deliver in general are innovative, and certainly the successful ones, because you have to continue to improve. The companies that are out there who have kind of carved out their own little niches in delivering information and resources to the public and found their own way to make that their own business, forced realtors to figure out how to do more things, to offer more value. I think there is a singular component that's been consistent, and that is, again, a good realtor is worried about the overall client experience and their success. So it's conversation.
It's not just transactional.
No, not at all. No. So you want to know the history. You want to know where they want to go, what they're trying to do, their personal resources on how to get there, what their bigger pictures are, and help them fulfill that. And the more we know as realtors, it's our job to be a really good resource. If we don't have answers, to find them. I mean, things are changing at lightning speed these days. So it's not just the information we have, but it's always finding new things consistently, and that's never going to end. In this, and
business. That is one thing. That's one thing that I do really like about this business. So you've been in it 20 years. I've been in it 6 years. There's always something to learn. There's always some discovery, and you've got to have that interest, that thirst to figure it out and get it to your clients.
It's you get paid in this business if you're successful. Your goal has to be to provide good service, but in the end, somebody will choose somebody that can truly provide that. So you have to be seeking resources and opportunities on how to provide good service. And somebody will work with somebody different if you're not offering good enough service, if they know what that means.
Well, and that's, that was where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The topic of this is you should understand as a consumer, both seller and buyer, what that means. Have an idea of what the resources are. Don't think 20 years ago, if you're going into the industry, like, oh, this person's just going to bring me a property, bringing me a few comps or show me a few addresses. There's so much more. And those are the questions you talk about asking early on.
Well, one of our taglines is every step of the way. And just to fill that out, it is about before, during, and after the sale, whether that's a buyer or seller. So that's certainly something that we believe in. We try to get across to our own clients, but even they, as self-sufficient as they are, sometimes they forget what we do. So,
Right.
we've got some cases here that we'll use it as examples to kind of point some of these things out and some of the hidden values or unknown values that you need to discover. So, we've got some successful clients, some buyers, a couple that were cramped in their downtown Los Angeles apartment, and with the pandemic, they had saved enough, worked hard enough to find a new place, a place with room. And that's a whole other story right there. But, we got to the end and gave them the keys. But before that, what did we do with them?
Well, I think, from a buyer perspective, often, there's varying degrees. We do work with a reasonable amount of first-time home buyers, or even if they're buying for a second time, maybe buying in LA for the first time. Or it's not uncommon these days for people to be stretching their budgets based on
Right.
the cost of housing. So we're always trying to find a way to stretch that budget even further. Sometimes that means, we can advise them to buy something that needs some work, and we can help them navigate getting that work done. That'll get them into a space. Sometimes that means, you can buy in a better neighborhood or a bigger house for the same reasons. Ultimately, we have the ability to evaluate a property early and accurately, and determine where they can end up in the long run, which will give them an idea of how much they can offer, how far they can stretch their budget, and we'll help them make it a house they want to move into. And that can be varying degrees. The couple you're talking about, we went back and forth. We reviewed the inspection report in detail. We discussed just general improvements. They wanted some modernization of a few things. Put together an itemized list, got our guy there. This is on the easier side. He'll be there for 2 days. And, they're going to have a list of 30 items or so that are all done. And they can move in, and those won't be an issue.
Well, it's funny you say that because, when you walk into the place, it's actually in really good condition. It has been brought up to speed. But, even with that, between an inspection report and us looking through the place and that final walkthrough, the list grew, and it's going to be a more comfortable, better house for them. And I wanted to say on this one in particular, Darren installs microwaves. He does a really good job, this guy. So
I can talk you through every step of doing it.
An unknown value, though. Once again, for a young couple who we found a really cool place in Tahunga. It's a mountain cabin. And so very put together, these guys. They had the diagram, the floor plan, what they want in terms of improvements. There was only 2 weeks, or there's only going to be 2 weeks before they're supposed to move in. And they'd already given notice to their landlord now that they're leaving into the month.
Sure.
So, we had to remind them, whoa, wait a minute, guys, let's have a good talk. And great ideas they have on paper, but, Darren, with your remodeling experience and also knowing the people that we work with, we've got to have a talk about timing this out and making sure it's going to work. And who does the work?
Sure. Sometimes that means, again, in the interest of trying to save money, sometimes you can do schedule work such that you can move in earlier and live in a portion of the property where work is being done somewhere else if you prioritize it properly. And we've recorded that as well. You know, we're very sensitive to financial needs and trying to make it all work. So yeah, this place though, we don't need to talk about it that long. I mean, it's going to be closed in a couple weeks, but wow, they've got the whole forest next to them and a stream, and it's amazing. For a very reasonable price.
We'll definitely have to share it with people. Yeah, it's a great story. But you know, and then I think the other distinction there that we brought out, and we're going to have a talk tomorrow about this, is, you know, what work is contractor work and what work is handyman work. Right. And I think there's a split there, and we're just going to have to balance it out, as you said, about, okay, what's the move-in priorities that we need to make sure are done, and then, you know, what is that? How long is it going to take that retaining wall and the right contractor to get installed? So.
You know, the simplest example is like if you have a one bathroom house, you got to work on that bathroom before you move in, because you're going to have a hard time living there if the bathrooms that you worked on, or if you're going to redo all the floors, you might want to do those before you move in. You know, you can paint walls and shift things around and improve, but there are some fundamental things that make it very difficult construction-wise to live in a house while they're going on. Right.
Well, you know, you said it earlier, but there is the great outdoors for a bathroom, but I don't know. The bear might not like it, or the deer might not like that. You know, the final example is an upcoming listing that we're going to have. So from the seller side, this is a lady who's lived in the house, I think she said 30 years. Yeah. And she's just moved into her parents' house, and there was work to do. So what did we do there, Darren?
You know, we kind of broke it down in a little bit of something we do, something that's, again, the evolution of real estate, right? The evolution of real estate is that now the availability to do construction on a home is much more readily available, because there's now more third-party vendors, almost like Zillow wedging their way in there on the resource for data. There are now third-party vendors that have moved their way into real estate to help do property prep. Now, I do think we have a little bit of an advantage. Certainly, I know among many, in that we have internally, firsthand, much of the information and knowledge, and can navigate that and are willing to help facilitate it. As soon as you add a third-party vendor, prices do escalate pretty dramatically. And it doesn't mean you're not going to get the return, but if you're not demolishing or you know, remodeling the entire house top to bottom, that's something we can do and don't need to go out to a third-party vendor.
Right. I mean, it's business. There's nothing evil about it, but yeah, you add one more person in, you're going to need to be paid.
I agree.
That's what it is. Yep. So yeah, you know, some good challenges in terms of this house, but I think, you know, we laid out a list, we made a punch list. We're right now in the midst of some estimates, and she has a good understanding of what's going to happen next, which is good. She was really relying on us for that.
Yeah, and you know, we kind of characterize it. This is like everyday language for us. From a perspective of, there are things you can do that improve the space and will net you more money because they'll be more aesthetically pleasing or more updated and not damaged. And then there's the second level of the inspection and walkthrough and punch list that relates to getting you through inspection and to close, knowing what's expected in the industry, knowing what's acceptable and what will cause a red flag and maybe be an issue in closing the transaction. So we focus on those components when we advise on what work to do as well.
Great. Okay, so that's the unknown value from us. Find your unknown value with whoever you're working with, and make sure they're really helping you as much as they can. As Darren said, with their resources, with their experience, and Yeah, don't sell yourself short. Make sure you're asking good questions.
And I do want to say, so like I started in the beginning, I started talking about how there is one thing that hasn't changed with good realtors. Maybe there's a lot more tools, there's a lot more resources, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I think the expectations have risen dramatically of what's expected in the industry. But you know, the phrases "realtor for life" and all that stuff. There's some legitimacy to that for people who really enjoy their job and engage. So you should remember that your realtor is a resource even well after your sale, for resources, referrals to people. I mean, we're doing this every day. I think things we're doing every day. We're happy. Trust me, we're happy to hear from you. I had people call us and say, "I'm sorry to bother you." You're not bothering us. As a realtor, I assure you, we're happy to hear from you and stay connected, and we want to help. And again, if we don't have the information, even if you're not in a transaction, we're going to try to find it for you and deliver it to you.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Did we slay that dragon enough? Anything else?
I think we're good, man.